Okay, Raj, is this the soundtrack?
You
This
know
might
it.
be it. This might
Yeah.
be it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many founders or startup gurus have their own soundtrack?
Not enough.
Exactly.
That not
Right.
enough.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Man,
Welcome
we
in,
got a good
everybody.
group. Yeah, good group here.
As
Yeah.
you are
Hey,
filing
squad.
in, let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from and what your company is. And then also just make sure your microphone is on mute as well. Also, thank you everyone for if you signed up expecting this to start an hour ago. My bad. It was supposed to start now, and it was accidentally set up to start an hour ago. So if you tuned in an hour ago and you were like, "Where's the webinar?" Here it is, and apologies that it happened late like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me call you. Yeah.
Gorkum, I
All right, we'll get
finally get to
started.
see your face. This is the best day of my life with the coolest mustache ever. My goodness. This guy's in all of our webinars. This is the best.
Yes. Hey, Gorkum.
Are we saying that right? Is that correct?
Is it Gorkum or Gurkum?
Gorkum? Are we saying this
Gorkum.
correctly?
Hello, Yorkum right pronunciation. Yorkum.
Welcome.
Welcome,
All right.
Gorkum.
Love it.
Okay.
Thank you
I'll
so
take
much.
it.
All right.
Man, yeah, we're getting a good group in here.
Right on.
Folks from California, from Alabama, Philippines, Austin, Texas. So yeah,
Intelligent training for a safety workforce.
as people continue to filter in, let us know where you're calling in from.
Help me find my baby in Roanoke. Oh, Alabama, not Roanoke, Virginia. I was going to say, if you know the lost colony of Roanoke story, it would be a perfect company to have Help Me Find My Baby.
Well, cool. Well, Raj, should we get going here?
Let's do it.
We'll do some intros here, but first off, wanted to welcome everybody to this special session of how to not suck at pitching your company with Raj. I've worked with Raj a ton over the years, and he is fantastic at helping folks be able to craft their pitch and be able to just kind of help you, know how to tell your story. So excited about this session. I'll go ahead and introduce myself here real quick. George, did you want to share a couple slides?
Yeah, let me share my screen.
And then we'll let George from CoconutVA and Raj then introduce himself as well. But just a quick background on myself. My name is Jeff Erickson. I'm the head of partnerships at a company called Forecastr. I work with a ton of startups. This is kind of our space that we focus on at Forecastr as well. We really help to make financial modeling easy for startup founders, helping you to figure out how much you need to raise, when you should raise it, why, how it's going to be used and how far it's going to get you. So that's really kind of what we do at Forecastr. My background, I've been at a number of different startups, had a company that I ran for about 10 years that we sold to a private equity group, and that allowed me to start angel investing. So I've been at this on the investor side as well as the founder side. And I came across Raj as he was coaching folks on how to tell their story, and it just resonated. So it's something that so many founders struggle with on how to tell that story, whether it's to your investors or to your customers or elsewhere. So I'm excited to dive into this. Before we do, I think, did we have a special offer from Forecastr on here? We do. So set up with Startup Hypeman and Raj, special offer. If you need help knowing your numbers and building out your financial model and figuring out how much you need to raise and where that's going to take you, that's what Forecastr does. We make financial modeling easy. So I'll drop in a link that you can use if you want to get a 20% discount and get a quick demo of Forecastr.
I threw it
So,
in there already, actually.
oh, did you already drop it in there?
Yeah.
Thanks, Raj. Way ahead of me. So, all right. Well, with that, I think we can hand this off to George, who actually used to be at Forecastr with me, but is now at CoconutVA, which is a super cool company that every founder should be using. And and that's why George joined this company.
Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing it. So awesome to see everybody on this call. See some familiar places. Yorkham, come on, man. We love to see you on these things. The legend himself. And love partner with Raj and Jeff. I used to work with Raj actually over at Forecastr, and when I say I've never met someone with more energy, I thought I could look myself in the mirror and say that it was me, but it's not. Raj has got me beat every single day of the week, and he kills it with helping founders and securing funding for them by just coaching them up on how to do it and to really hook these investors in. So yeah, but a little bit about me. Used to do partnerships, work with people like Microsoft and HubSpot and Fidelity with Mr. Jeff over here, the partnership god himself. And then before that was actually in investor relations. So worked with startups from pre-seed to Series A, mainly in B2B SaaS and CPG, and raised over 8 figures for those guys. But now I'm over at Coconut, and we help you guys hire remote and pay month to month. So it's kind of like having an employee on subscription. But we have amazing people who've worked over at like Slack, Zoom, HubSpot. I just hired someone who worked at Accenture for like 10 years. So at an incredible price point. So it's really, really incredible. I'm paying, I think, $16 an hour for this person that worked at Accenture for like 10 years, and they are amazing. Have completely changed my life. And we have all these people in the Philippines. So I actually just lived in Asia for about 3 months. We have over 100,000 people who apply to work for us in the Philippines. So you're probably asking yourself, well, how the heck do I get involved in this thing? Don't ask that. I already have the answer. You can get 40 hours of free work here, guys. So we're looking for longer term fits. We have 2 spots left for this free week trial. So I'm going to throw a link in the chat right now. Actually, Cassie's going to throw this link in the chat right now. And for anybody that fills out this link and comments done, then we will DM you during this presentation a list of early stage investors, 575 early stage investors. So the first few people that do this and you comment done, we will DM you that. But you just have to fill out this link right here. So Murray Carr just put that in the chat. So you just got to fill that out, and then we will send that over to you. And here it is. Hopefully this guy works. So boom, there it is. And if you guys want that list of investors, all you got to do is just click that link, fill her out, and we will get you going. And be like Grace. Come on, get acquired, be profitable. What are we talking about here? But that's why we're working with these awesome guys like Jeff and Raj, because really when you are building this up, you need to know how to craft your message, get that funding. And a part of that is really knowing your financials and pitching that to investors. A pitch deck tells your story. A financial model shows how it happens. And with us, we are trying to help you scale and figure out how to deploy that capital effectively and help you grow and grow. So that's how this whole kind of thing comes together. All of us are working together. So yeah, well, I'm going to hand it back to Raj, the guy who's way cooler and running the show here. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for coming. We're stoked on this.
Right on. Thank you both. All right, let's dive in, everybody. Let me get my screen share up now. Where did it go? One sec. Got to find where I've actually got which screen I've got this thing on.
I'm seeing a done commented in the chat. Andrea, we'll DM you that list right now. Be on the lookout for that. Whoop, whoop.
All right. So question, can everybody see the screen here without any like things getting in the way, any obstructions? We're good?
Think we're
okay,
good.
beautiful. And if I could just ask everyone a couple of housekeeping items here. This will be pretty interactive, so be ready at your keyboard. We'll have some stuff we want you to respond to in the chat. Also, if you're able to have your camera on, this is, I promise you, a far better experience. And it ends up being more conversational along the way. So there will also be parts where I ask you to come off of mute as well. So if you're able to have your camera on, please do. I'll spotlight my video for the purpose of the recording, but if you can have your camera on, please throw it on. All right, friends, we got a lot to cover today. This is a workshop I love giving. It's called How to Not Suck at Pitching Your Startup. A couple of you who are on here have taken this before. If you have taken this before, I've made some brand new updates, some refreshes to it, because I'm always, this stuff is always top of mind for me. So I always want to make sure the content is not stale and that you're getting the right information, where and when you need it. And if you're driving, please do not turn your video on. Only if you are in a single stable position and not currently in motion. So if my Coconut friends could just monitor the waiting room as I'm going through the content today to make sure people get let in, that'll be great. So today's content is going to focus very largely on your 1-minute story, your upfront elevator pitch. And I'll get into why as we get into this, but just as a heads up, as a follow-up coming out of this, I will send all of you a copy of the slides, as well as what I call the director's cut recording of this workshop, which is a pre-recorded version that includes what we covered today, plus some extra information specifically on some advanced pitch deck strategies. And then this recording itself of this live session will go up on our YouTube channel in about a week. So if anyone on YouTube is watching this right now, hello from the past, and I hope the future is rocking. All right, so how to not suck at pitching your startup. Let's dive right in. You all tuned into this experience today, but you may not have realized you tuned into a live interactive game show called Pitch Your Startup. Woo, woo, woo. That's right, it's Pitch Your Startup, the only live interactive game show where a room of entrepreneurs go together on Zoom, where they have to none other than pitch their startup. What I would like is one lucky volunteer from the audience who wants to come on down. I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. Your job is to pitch me. You can either raise your hand via the Zoom feature. You can say in the chat that you'll go. Any of those work. Who would like to be our lucky volunteer? Let's not all jump up at once now. We got a lot to cover today, so we can't wait forever either. All right, I'm picking someone in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Timothy Walter, you're up on my screen. You are, everybody give him a round of applause. Timothy Walter, come on down.
Come on.
Yeah. So I'm in this meeting because people are pitching their startup. I want to learn how to pitch effectively.
Oh yeah. I need you to be dear campaign
No.
and attentive.
We got some background noise from someone. Mute that. All right. Okay. For a second, I thought you were talking without your lips moving, and I was like, "Oh, this is even more impressive."
There you go.
Right, Timothy, 60 seconds on the clock. Ready, set, go.
My name is Tim Walter. I'm the founder of SafetyView. SafetyView is to prevent accidents like the one my friend had when we were younger in construction sites. We're building a proprietary adaptive safety training that personalizes experiences for each worker, identifies gaps, and changes the simulation until they master the critical safety procedures. Studies have shown that low proficiency operators are nearly 15 times more likely to experience an incident compared to higher proficiency counterparts. Our adaptive training approach helps bridge the gap, reducing OSHA recordable incident rates by 15%, increase worker efficiency by 10%. It's more than a training, it's a virtual rehearsal for real life safety.
And time. All right. Clocking in at about 56 seconds. All right.
Wow.
Timothy, round of applause. Stay with me for a moment here. How do you feel right now?
Feel all right. I'm a little nervous jumping in, but all right. That's
Sure.
the don't suck at pitching part, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you were going to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate that pitch?
6 on that.
All right, 6. Why a 6?
I just rewrote my pitch this morning. So I had to pull it up and I was reading it, so it wasn't just by muscle memory like
Got it.
other times. So
Sure. Well, thank you, Timothy. I'm going to leave it up to the chat. Now, in the chat, please also give your score to Tim on a scale of 1 to 10. Where did you feel that his pitch landed? And while they're giving their answers, I probably scored it around a 5. I think you had some good elements of information there. I think there were a little bit too many numbers to be able to kind of remember which number was assigned to which sort of category or value. And I think, like you said, right, you were reading off of it, so you want more of that like natural flow to come out. But I do think there were some good elements in there. And so what we want to do, and again, everybody in the chat, go ahead and drop, your score for Tim there and how you felt that pitch was on a scale of 1 to 10. And so what we want to do, Tim, is talk through the right mindset and tools and frameworks to be able to get that from a 5 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. And so that's what we're going to share today is these different elements. So again, thank you, Tim. Round of applause. Now, for everyone else, I need you to use the chat and tell us why you did not volunteer yourself. We had about maybe 15, 20 seconds there where any of you could have jumped in. So I want to know why you didn't take up the opportunity in advance. Megan said, I'm nervous. Thank you for the honesty, Megan. Totally fair. Multitasking. All right. Hey, nobody puts baby in the corner browser tab. So you should make this front and center. Bill, yes, you've used the opportunity previously. So there's that. Just too many windows open. I was in the middle of writing. Focus, people, focus. For the people who felt nervous, or maybe you don't like being put on the spot, or maybe you don't love where your pitch is at today. I hear you and I see you. And I think that's actually the pretty consistent state of most entrepreneurs. I have done this workshop and I have trained probably over 5,000 entrepreneurs at this point. And most of them are in that camp of either nervous or they don't have it all put together yet, or they don't like what they're saying, or they don't like being put on the spot. So I just want you to know if that's where you're at, you're not alone. And that's the good cop in me. I'm going to play bad cop now. You're not alone, but it's also not okay. And I say that because you do not get to choose when your opportunities come to you. The opportunities show themselves before you ever even realize it. Because I promise what's not going to happen is you will not bump into an investor on the sidewalk and they're like, oh, my apologies. Hey, not right now, but 24 hours from now, I want to meet you back here on this piece of sidewalk. And then I want to hear you pitch me. So just like get all the jitters out, get the nerves out, figure out what you want to say. And then I'll be ready to meet with you same time, same place, this piece of concrete tomorrow, right? It's not going to happen like that. What's going to happen is you will find yourself at an event. You will find yourself manning a conference show trade booth, a trade booth at a conference. What is it? A booth at a trade show or a conference is what I'm trying to say. You will find yourself perhaps in an actual elevator, right? These are all the quote unquote on the spot areas. And if you haven't put the time and attention to detail into what you want to say beforehand, you're going to keep finding yourself in this caught behind the 8-ball position. And you don't ever want that to be the case. Because the reality is, even on this webinar right now, there is potentially someone else in the room who could be helpful to you. If only you took it upon yourself to take that opportunity and pitch what you're doing. And I say this because I've seen it happen before. I did an in-person version of this workshop a year or so ago. And one of the companies who had worked with us, I hit them up beforehand. They were local, and I was like, hey, do you want to come to the event? And when we get through the pitch stuff, I'll give the mic to you, and it's be a good chance to practice your pitch. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. So we do the event, and he does his pitch. He crushes it, of course. And then after the event, I didn't know this, but there was actually a VC in the audience, and they walked right up to him and they go, hey, I really liked what you had to say earlier. Here's my card. Let's set up a meeting for later this week. And that was not at all planned. But that is the power of taking it upon yourself to be ready at any given time and not sit back and I'm too nervous, or I don't like being put on the spot, or any of that stuff, right? The time to refine, to craft, refine, and to master is now. There's no time like the present. So with that said, let's talk about what a bad pitch sounds like. I hear thousands of pitches, and this is what a lot of them start with. We're the Airbnb of luxury cars. We're an AI-enabled learning technology platform. We're disrupting the $150 billion, that's a made-up number, $150 billion live entertainment sector. I'll also get things like, well, normally what I'd say is this, or hang on, let me think about this for a moment. Now, those first three on there, these are not the ways you want to be pitching when you have this opportunity to tell someone what you do, because this, number one, we're the Airbnb of luxury cars. Quit relying on another company to be able to talk about what you do. I'm okay if you use an analogy, if it ends up being as part of an explanation of like a utilization of something deeper in a conversation. But you're going to get conflicting advice on this. I'm the person to say, don't lead with "we are the blank of blank," because it's used so often. And if it's not a direct analogy, it often misrepresents your own company and actually can prevent you from making the right decisions because you think the market's going to operate the way it did for those companies. And oftentimes it doesn't. If you're building with AI, great. AI is a vehicle to providing value. It is not the value holder in and of itself. So everyone's got an AI powered, AI driven, AI enabled, etc. Do not also be another AI whatever, right? Talk about the thing and the fact, and then it just so happens to be powered by AI. Do not lead with the fact that you're disrupting a market, especially if you're early stage. I promise at this point, the only thing you have disrupted is your own bank account. All right. You are not out, you haven't disrupted anything yet. Let someone else tell you you're disruptive. Do not go out telling others that you are disruptive or that you are disrupting. Also, market size. I call this the market size mistake. Market size is table stakes. Don't lead with it. It's not the most important thing someone needs to know about your company. And everyone has a market size. So don't swing your big TAM energy around thinking like, the second I tell people it's $100 billion industry, their jaw's going to drop and they're going to be like, oh yes, I'm going to give you money now, right? Normally what I'd say is that one. If you ever preface your pitch by saying, yeah, well, normally what I'd say is, that means that's not ever what you actually say. That means you start by saying, if you feel the need to preface what you're about to say, it means you're not confident in what you're about to say. And you never want to be in the, okay, well, let me think about this for a moment, right? You want to know it regardless of the scenario or the situation you find yourself in. So with that in mind, I want you to reframe how you're thinking about your pitch in the first place, because if raising capital is on your mind, your elevator pitch is not a throwaway item. And it's also not a one-liner, right? It's much deeper than that. I'm not saying don't have a one-liner, but don't rely solely on the one-liner. It is deeper than that. Your elevator pitch should be your 1 minute story. And it should do all of these things below. It should generate interest on the spot. It should be the core that you build your investor deck or your sales deck around, or both. It should drive your sales outreach, right? That should be the foundational messaging for your sales outreach. It should be the thing you say when you open up your sales calls, particularly if you're B2B. It should be the thing that actually you use to transform your website or your app copy. You should be able to utilize this elevator pitch as a base for an entire content marketing plan. It should also even be able to work as a standalone advertisement. And it should be able to scale easily across your team. And when that last part's important, right? It has to be something that someone else on the team can also repeat. And it needs to be easy enough to understand that your audience can then go out and repeat it to others, because that's how you create essentially a viral coefficient out of the words you speak. If other people can go out and repeat it to others. And the more buzzwords you use, the harder that's going to become. So I want you to reframe how you're thinking about this. And I really want you to get on board with the fact that this is arguably the most important piece of messaging you will ever create for your company. And that also means your pitch is not just for investors. And if you are building a pitch just for investors, whether it's an elevator pitch or a pitch deck, that's a wasted effort because you're going to have to do double the work. And what I mean by that is you should instead focus on your customer or user message and then build your investor pitch around that. And this is going to help you think beyond just the pitch deck. The pitch deck is important, but it is not the only thing. And if you think about building your investor pitch deck solely through the lens of talking to investors, well, guess what? Now you have to do an extra effort to figure out how do you now go and talk to your customers. You know what's way better to impress an investor is to be able to show them, here's how we talk to our customers, and get them to see that you know how to actually speak to your true target market. And then because you're building a message that's more customer focused or user focused, guess what? Now it's going to influence your traction. And now when you talk to investors, you've got a better story to tell them because your traction is scaling up quicker. Because you're not going to a customer and telling them about your TAM. Because your customer, I promise, does not care about your TAM. And I get cold emails in my inbox from brand new startups where they're trying to get me to buy their software, where they think a compelling message is like, hey, did you know that whatever? Well, I don't know. Let's take VAs for example. Did you know that the VA market is actually growing to be a $90 billion market over the next 10 years? Why would I care about that as an individual potential customer of a product? Right? I don't care how big. I care about my own problem. I care about if it's going to make me 90 minutes or not. Get me 90 minutes back or not. I don't care about $90 billion that it means to everyone else. Right? And I'm not saying market size is not important. It's just not the most important message. And again, if you lead with investors about how you talk to your customers, you will have far more success and quicker. So I want to tell you everything today through the lens of a couple other founders who are very similar to the situation many of you may find yourself in. And their names are Kim and Joyce. They're the co-founders of a company called HonestGame. They took a version of this workshop a few years back, and then they came up to me afterwards and were like, hey, our pitch is a mess. We really need to fix it. These are some of the things they had to say. The other thing they told me was, Kim's on top, Joyce is at the bottom photo. And Kim said, her and I are so out of sync with each other that we can be in the same room and talk to two separate people. Those two people can then go talk to each other, and they would be convinced they met two completely different companies just now. And so, especially if you have a co-founder, you want to make sure the message you have across each other is synced up. So we had to fix this situation they were in because they were about to go to market, and they wanted to obviously gather customers and then ultimately raise the right kind of capital for their company. So as we talk through the strategies today, I want to share it to you through the lens of their journey. Let me take a step back for a moment and tell you a little bit about myself. I know George and Jeff kind of gave a little bit of an introduction, but for those of you who have not met me before, my name is RajNATION. I go by RajNATION. My company is Startup Hypeman. And I do this work and I do all of my passions and pursuits because of one reason, and that is because I believe in the power of expression, and I believe everyone deserves a voice. So that is what fuels my career as a hip hop artist, where I actually make music about startup life. If you were here at the beginning of the call, the music that was playing in the background was one of my songs. I've got an album on Spotify. It's called Goat to Market. Check it out. It can, should, and will become the soundtrack of your startup journey. I'm also a yoga instructor. I'm also a ring announcer and TV play-by-play broadcaster for MMA. And of course, I've built Startup Hypeman over the last 7 years through this blend of creativity and entertainment and storytelling to help startups refine their message so that they can not just go to market, but become the GOAT to market, whether the goal is fundraising or whether the goal is scaling up customers and creating categories. So this is why I do this, because I believe everyone deserves a voice at the end of the day. And what I've found, the thing that pains me the most is when I see an entrepreneur unable to articulate themselves when they've got it up here, but they just can't seem to make it work out here. And the impact, this focus on voice has had a cool impact over the years. We've worked with entrepreneurs and startups across over 36 cities, over 12 countries, every continent except Antarctica. But when the penguins need to jump off that ice cliff that's melting, we'll catch them and we'll figure out their story as well. And this has fueled multiple millions of dollars through capital raises and sales lifts as well, and a ton of pitch competition winners along the way too. We've partnered with some cool firms in the process too, or appeared in different places, which has just been great to be able to get that recognition from others and that vote of confidence. So I share this to say, like, this is like my life. I live and breathe, and I revolve around this kind of stuff. I care about it, but let's talk about what you care about. And that is, at the end of the day, money, right? We are out to get the bag. We're out to generate revenue. We're out to raise capital. We are trying to create economic impact with our work. We're trying to provide for our families. We want to create generational wealth. That's what we're doing, right? So it can be really tough to make this happen if what you're saying leaves you tongue-tied, because the other side of a really good story is this here, right? It's this different forms of capital. So you got to know what you want to say. And maybe there's a delta here, and that delta is just the fact that it's really tough to figure out what to say when this is the goal. And maybe you feel a little bit like this, or you didn't volunteer earlier. You didn't volunteer earlier because you were worried it was going to sound something like this.
The dog, you put the food in the thing, and then the dog sees it, and food's it's dangling. Dog looks at dang, tail wag, dog wagging the tail, whatever dog's name is. Dog's name is Claire. Claire, come in. Claire sees dog food, pick, Facebook, like.
Sizzle, strategy, sex, something.
This is the worst pitch I have ever seen.
Little bit of an exaggeration, but maybe you've felt like you've been some form of that before, where you're repeating your words, your tongue is swelling up. So I think a lot of this comes from just not having the right focus in the first place. So the question I want to pose for all of you is, what is the purpose of a pitch, or what is the goal of a pitch? Go ahead and drop your answer in the chat. What do you believe? What would you say is the purpose of a pitch, or the goal? We've got to get a meeting, generate sufficient interest for follow-up discussions, get the next meeting, drive interest, get a second meeting, get attention, dive deeper later, introduce yourself, get the next meeting, tell a story to hook. Yeah, I think these are all kind of like circling the runway a little bit. But to really land this plane, I think it's something deeper than that. And this was a realization I had earlier this year when I was reflecting. So we've built over like 300 pitches at this point, and I was looking back at them, at what was effective. And I was also looking at just what else I had seen in the market. And all of these answers that you're giving, I think, are actually the byproducts of something much deeper. And the true purpose of a pitch that I realized is it is to make your audience feel seen. Because when your audience feels seen, they will trust you with their time, their energy, their information, and ultimately their money. When they feel seen, they find a piece of themselves in the story that you are telling. And if they cannot find themselves, your story is not worth telling. That's why I say what doesn't make a person feel seen is, oh, hey, we're disrupting the $150 billion whatever industry, right? What does not make a person feel seen is rattling off more numbers. Oh, we've had a 15% increase in this. It's a 20% reduction in this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because the more numbers we shout out, the more product attributes we share, the more detail we give, the more impressive we think we sound. But in reality, it's death by information overwhelm for our audience. So the true purpose of a pitch is to make your audience feel seen. With that said, I want to align on something, and that is that your product requires a compelling story, because without it, you're just risking commoditization. So if you can vibe with that, I want you to make a decision right now if that's something that you vibe with, and if that resonates with you, that your product needs and deserves a compelling story to make your audience feel seen. If that's the case, we're going to do a call and response here. So I want you to come off of mute. I'll say a portion of a sentence, and then I want you to repeat it back to me. So bring yourself off of mute. My product. Go ahead.
My product.
My product.
What?
We'll try it again. My product.
My
product.
My product
Does not mean shit.
does not mean
Does
shit.
not mean shit.
Without a compelling story.
Without
a compelling story.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. You can go back on mute now. My product does not mean shit without a compelling story. Without the story, you are a commodity. And I want you to be better than how we buy a can of peas on the shelf, right? We look for, is it 79 cents or is it 89 cents? Maybe we buy organic or non-organic, but that's it. You don't really care if you're buying Del Monte or Dole, right? So if you want to be more than a commodity, you need a story. This is also why I think this lesson from Mr. Rogers is actually quite applicable here. I feel so strongly that deep and simple is far more essential than shallow and complex. Deep and simple over shallow and complex. So what is it that's holding us all back? Well, through my conversations over the years, I generated 3 top reasons that make this so difficult. And I call it the messaging treadmill, because we can think this stuff is important, but it often feels like we're running in place trying to figure it out. Number 1, so these are the top 3 reasons that have come out in all my conversations and trainings over the years. Number 1 is being too in the weeds. You are so close to the thing, it's really hard to zoom out, take a step back, and understand, how do you talk about this to someone who has fresh eyes, ears, and mind? Number 2 is being too technical. Maybe you're the product engineer and you know, like, you can speak product really well, but the communication side isn't so much your forte. Number 3 is being too caught up in the day-to-day, meaning you're running a company, you have a million responsibilities, and figure out pitch is inevitably at the bottom of your to-do list every single time. And I know how this works. You'll have a task list of 10 things, build pitch is number 10. You'll get through the first 9, and then you'll stare at number 10 and find 9 new things to put above it to put off working on it another day, right? I know how that stuff goes. And it can be really hard if you're so caught up like that. And then the unfortunate thing that makes all these things, that compounds all these issues, is the fact that there's an ongoing mental crisis that comes with being an entrepreneur, where like every single day, you know, you're worrying about if you can make payroll, you're worrying about your bank account. You know, you wake up and you make the mistake of checking email while drinking your coffee, and it's like an investor being like, hey, we passed on you, thanks for coming in, but no thanks. And then a customer emails you being like, oh, we're not going to buy your product right now, maybe again in 12 months. And then, you know, you start questioning if maybe you never should have left the salaried job, and when your family said you're crazy for quitting. All right, all these doubts start creeping in, and it can be really hard to have a positive impression of your own company as a result, when you know all these things that are going on in the background that are making the day-to-day feel a little bit more shaky. How do you then take up the responsibility of talking to someone else and representing it in only the best light possible? Kim and Joyce are from HonestGame, who I mentioned to you earlier. They were very much numbers 1 and 2, 2 in the weeds and 2 technical. I would like you all to drop either a number 1, a 2, or a 3, or a combination of those to describe where you're at today. And if it's none of them, please share what your other reason might be. So we've got Maria at a 3, too caught up in the day-to-day. Same with Gautam. Megan's a 6. So does that mean a 3 and a 3, a 2, and a 1? Is that what that is? I think I did the math right on that. Okay, number 2. All right, 2 technical. All right. We got another 2 in there. Okay, so it looks like this is largely resonating. So especially being too caught up in the day-to-day. So we got to figure out, how do we start to change things? And with Kim and Joyce, and really with everyone that we come across, the first thing we do is we think through mindset first. There's a huge shift you got to make here. And that is, I want you to stop thinking like an entrepreneur and instead think like an entertainer. Why an entertainer? Because the entertainer has one goal in mind, and that is, how do I make my audience feel something, right? How do I move them? If you think of your favorite music artist, when you go and see them live, they don't take the stage and be like, all right, all right, Houston, what's up? So tonight we're going to play every song in our entire catalog. That's 12 studio albums. Each album has about 15 songs on it. We're going to play every single one of those, including some of the random little skits that appear in the album too. When we're done with that, we want to give you some of the working drafts that are not fine-tuned, that we've been doing in the garage, that don't really sound good to you, but it's important to us that you know they exist. And then after that, we want to spend a little bit of time giving you a window into our upcoming 6 to 9 month music roadmap. It'll take 35 hours to get through all of it. Are you with me? you're not sticking around for that concert, right? Maybe a Taylor Swift fan would, but outside of T Swift, and I don't know if any of us have her kind of pull. No one's sticking around for that kind of concert. So you don't want to be that kind of person. You want to think like an entertainer, and that means treat your pitch like you're curating a set list, because that's what they do, right? They curate a set list based around the emotion they want to leave people with. So you got to do that same thing. You got to figure out what is your more or less greatest hits set list that you want to leave people with a certain emotion by the end of it. And bear in mind, the fact that they have a set list allows them to slightly tweak based on the city they are touring in. So sometimes I'll get some pushback from entrepreneurs who are like, well, I don't want to sound scripted, and I want to sound natural. You will sound far more natural if you know what you want to say versus trying to wing it every time you go out. And the fact that you know what you want to say allows you to, so if you think about the entertainer, right? If they're in Detroit, they might add a little like Detroit Rock City element to their set list that night because that's the arena they're playing in. Versus when they come to Chicago and they're in the United Center, maybe they do something that involves the Chicago Bulls, entrance song, that kind of thing, right? They don't just walk in every night being like, yeah, let's see what we play. They have the set list, and then that set list gives them the ability to improv or do something in the moment based on the specific destination that they're giving that concert in. And you can do that same thing with your pitch, right? When you have your talk track, if you will, and then you can make a modification based on, am I on stage? Am I in front of these kinds of people? Am I in front of these kinds of people? So think like an entertainer is the lesson. Be there for your audience. Audience matters the most. So now let's start to think about, now we have mindset in play. Let's start to think about how we translate this into an elevator pitch. I think it's really helpful to first give you a idea of a really strong elevator pitch. And this is the best elevator pitch of all time. And it's actually from a source of entertainment. And it is Will Smith and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song. So many of you didn't realize earlier you tuned into a live interactive game show. You also have tuned into a live sing-along concert. So what we're going to do now is we're all going to come off of mute and we are going to collectively sing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme. Hopefully you know it. So bring yourself off of mute so you don't leave me hanging. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there, and tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel-Air. In West Philadelphia, born and raised, on the playground is where I spend most of my days, chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool and all shooting some b-ball outside of my school, and a couple of guys who were up to no good. Making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight and my mom got scared. She said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel-Air." Okay, we'll pause it there. Round of applause, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so you can go back on mute now. Obviously, that's super fun to do, but that's actually his pitch for the show. I had this really rough upbringing in Philadelphia, and there was a good chance that if I stayed there, I was going to get involved in the wrong stuff. My mom recognized this early on, and she realized for me to fulfill my potential, I would have to go off to live in Bel-Air, California. That way, I'd be surrounded by the right family, have access to the right education, be able to tap into the right resources. So ultimately, I could grow into the man she knew I was capable of becoming. That's the story being told at the beginning of the show. That's the elevator pitch. And that is why every episode makes sense, right? What it does is it invites you into the plot. It helps you understand the plot, but it doesn't give you the whole episode. It's the reason you want to then stay and watch the episode. And that's what your elevator pitch should do. It should give someone an invitation to your plot, but you're not giving them everything. And this is what I see it happen a lot. It's like we're so worried about we only have a minute-ish of time, and we think the more we say during that time, the better our odds are. But less is more, I promise you. Remember Mr. Rogers, deep and simple, far better than shallow and complex. So you want to just give people an invitation to basically, you want people to not change the channel on your show, right? They need to hear your intro song, your pitch, if you will, your elevator pitch, and not want to change the channel. And your show is going to be your pitch deck, your longer conversation, something deeper format with them. Also notice how they didn't get to like season 5 and be like, you know what, we've done the pitch enough, we can move on. People get it by now. We don't need to do the song anymore. Every episode starts with that introduction because they know it might be your 100th time seeing it, but it's always someone else's first time. And that they owe it to that audience member to make sure they are brought up to speed, and they are willing to have the message reinforced to you if it means bringing someone else up to speed. And that's an anecdote I share because especially I see this happen if you're out at a conference or an event or something like that. I see a lot of pitch fatigue hit founders where they are like, they've been doing it for 30 minutes or an hour. They've been giving their pitch. And then they're just like, oh, I've been saying this so much. Okay, yeah, so we do this, this, and this to the next person. You owe it to that person to give it your best, right? Don't shoot yourself in the foot because you're a little bit exhausted. Every single time it is your best effort. So with that, let's get into the tactics now. I want to give you a framework and strategy for developing this elevator pitch. The first model is we have to figure out our positioning in the market to be able to properly develop an elevator pitch. So to develop your positioning, you use a tool that I call the superhero positioning strategy. The idea is you have to look at your startup as a superhero, because what do superheroes do? They help and they save people. What are you doing? You're helping, you're saving people from something. Batman, I think, is the best example because he actually was just someone who combined technology with access to capital in order to serve the public good. Does that sound familiar? Technology, access to capital, serve the public good. So you are all Bat people. Give yourself a pat on the back for that. But when does Batman come out to save the day, right? Things have gone wrong. There is crime in the streets. The bank has been robbed. Someone's getting mugged. Joker's blown up the hospital, right? These are all the things that make Batman put on the cape to save the day. If it's a sunny day outside, people don't have a care in the world. They're taking their dog for a walk. Their kids are at the park. You do not hear Batman swoop in and be like, well, I'm here to save you. Because if he did, you know how the people would react? They'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you wearing that creepy cape? Stay the hell away from my children. They would get the exact opposite impression of Batman. But because he shows up when Gotham's in trouble, they say, thank you, Batman, for saving me. You only need to save Gotham when Gotham needs saving. So the superhero positioning strategy says, so this is the exercise, coming back to Kim and Joyce with HonestGame, this is the exercise we took them through, and every pitch we develop, we start here. Says that in order for you to exist, the superhero, you must first have a person in distress and then a village on fire. With a village on fire, you can activate a superpower. And with your superpower activated, you can come in and save the day as the superhero. Or in business speak, this is your target audience, the problem they are experiencing, your approach to that problem, and ultimately your solution. Now, this is a entire exercise to go through. If you know, again, we do this with everyone, but if you do this on your own, this is internal reference material only. You're not building this part to be external messaging. Just get the ideas out of your head. Think of it as an organized data dump. If you're going to do it on your own, I would say just take out a piece of paper and draw 4 columns. If you are, yeah, that's what I would say. Do it as 4 columns. I'll just show you real quick, like how we do it. Give me 1 second. All right, let me see here. Get this tab into where we need to be. Okay, so like when we do it, we've got this whole like model built out where it's like, let's refine who your audience is, all these kinds of things. Let's work through these elements one by one. So that's just an idea. But if you're gonna do it on your own, at minimum, you can just draw a baseline version of a sheet of paper with 4 columns. The reason, though, why you want to do this exercise is because it forces you to think through the lens of your customer base, right? Your target audience. It forces you to have the context and frame of reference that they require first. And most importantly, you lead with empathy. You think through empathy first because you're starting at their starting point and then moving on. And from this, you now have the organized raw material to craft a really, really good elevator pitch. And so what I'm going to show you on the next slide is the elevator pitch formula that has been wildly successful so many times over. If you are ready to see that, please type in the chat the word pitch. Someone wrote fish, but pitch, pitch, fish. All right, pitch, pitch. The crowd is chanting for it. Fish, they want the fish. All right, everybody, this is the most deadly, effective, and easy to remember. If you know any Spanish, then you will know that que pasa in Spanish means what's up or what's happening. That's what you need to do when it comes to your pitch. You need to tell people what's up. What's up with them, therefore what's up with you. PASA, which stands for problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. Again, the reason why this is effective is because when you start here, you start on their side and you bring them over to your side, rather than hammering them over the head with what your offering is, which can scare people away. This allows them to feel seen, right? And when they feel seen, they are far more receptive to your offering, and they are going to trust you to tell you more about them. And as you think about pitching investors, you give your investor this message, not what's the investor's problem, what's your target customer or user's problem, right? You paint this picture for them, and this is how you deliver an upfront 1-minute story that buys you the meeting, right? Your first 60 seconds will determine your next 60 minutes. So there's a lot riding on that first minute, and you want to make sure what you're saying gets someone to not say, what? But instead says, wait, tell me more. That's how you want people reacting. And that's why this formula works so well. Now, most people want to know the difference between approach and solution. I'm going to show you a few examples that'll help clarify that. Action is going to be your call to action. What do you want the person to do now? And this, again, is very flexible. Remember earlier we talked about, like, is it something that generates interest on the spot? Can it be used in your website copy? Can you use this to fuel your sales outreach and your sales copy, et cetera, et cetera? Can it become your LinkedIn company bio, right? This is designed to do all of those things. And in essence, why this is working is because it's changing how you're approaching this in the first place. Because to this point, you have probably led with your offering. And I'm saying don't lead with it, lead to it. It's the difference between playing a game of tug of war and yanking someone over to your side versus starting on their side, holding their hand and walking together step by step over to your side. Let's look at some examples now that'll help really crystallize this. First person I want you to meet is Christine. She is the founder of a company called Cyber Pop-Up. Here was the scenario she was facing. We need to balance the seriousness and private nature of cybersecurity with the flexibility and simplicity of our platforms, that people understand the value, how we're different, and why they should trust us. Here was the que pasa for her company, Cyber Pop-Up. Your server was hacked. You failed an audit. Your latest software update is vulnerable. Cybersecurity is serious business. It's also highly specialized. So why would you find an expert from the same place your marketing team gets their freelance graphic designers? What? Yuck. Meanwhile, traditional consulting firms take you through a sales process that lasts months, but you needed someone for the job like yesterday. Get vetted specialists in a fraction of the time at a time when you need it most with Cyber Pop-Up. Submit your project and get started as early as the same day. We manage the team and verify all your requirements are met, so you get the highest quality delivery without the headaches. Cybersecurity isn't a matter of if, but when. So when it hits the fan, go to cyberpopup.com. Capital letter C in the chat if you understand the plot of this company. C. Good. Someone said no, so I'm actually curious what your reason there is. Oh, okay, maybe that was a mistake that you said no. And fish. Right, and again, this is not just something that's soundbite material. It is. Here was the series of messages I was getting. Sidebar, I won 20K in a competition yesterday. How many of you want to have an email that you send where the sidebar is, I happened to win $20,000 last night? Then I got another email that said 5K. Then another one, $100,000 win. The following weekend, she won another $100,000. Over the course of a year, she won just about 250K, nearly all of which was equity free. She started getting media attention at that point because she was doing so well. And then this ended up fueling her towards raising a 7-figure seed round. But Que Paso works not just for raising capital. And this is why I said at the beginning, do not think about this solely through the lens of investors. You're going to have to do a double the work if you only think about it through the lens of investors. Instead, think about how much it matters to customers and then let that fuel everything else. So this is actually something we're literally working with right now, Wendy with Expert Atlas. Her big thing was like, hey, big challenge is getting started in our initial pitch, particularly as I think about generating sales more than anything else. So for any of you who are out here who are like, we need to get our first X number of customers, we need to scale up our customer base. I think this example is really good. So Wendy, one of her target audiences is ed tech startups, actually. And so here's the pitch for Expert Atlas. Building an ed tech solution, easy. Getting the right stakeholders to even look at it, impossible. They ignore cold emails, don't open drip campaigns, and no-show webinars. Conferences cost a ton of money only to spend 3 days talking to other ed techs trying to find out where the actual buyers are. And in the end, we're publishing a 27-page white paper, crossing our fingers for a legitimate lead. Be seen as the expert with Expert Atlas. We bring vetted buyers, leaders, and influencers to the table for virtual demo days, so your product gets in front of the people who matter most. As a trusted third-party event, we recruit the stakeholders who want to listen, learn, and can opt in for follow-up discussions. When you showcase your expertise in a neutral forum, you sell with your buyers, not to them. Be seen at expertatlas.com. Capital letter E in the chat if you can see how she would provide value to one of her target audiences, which is the ed tech startup market. Good. Lots of E's coming in. Good. And the very quick result that they had, like I said, we're actively working with her right now, but literally this was the response that an actual customer in their target audience gave, or a prospect. I happened to be at an event where I was able to, I met someone in their target market and I was like, hey, what you're saying seems pretty interesting. Let me just say this for you. And I verbatim gave that elevator pitch. And the response was 1,000% I'm in. And then she was like, and how much does it cost? And I was like, I think it's like $1,000 to $2,000. She was like, oh, I pay twice that for a conference that gets me no leads. I'm in. Get me in. Y'all can hang with me. And if you can't, we'll get this recording out in like the next week. But hopefully you can stay with me for the next couple minutes. I want you to take a look at Peter, former CEO of a company called SearchSpring. He literally was just like, I hate the way we sell. We're always caught in a feature battle with competitors. And here's what this elevator pitch became for SearchSpring. And one of their issues was they have 4 other key competitors who all priced lower than them. So they have to be able to provide value in a certain way that makes sense that you'd pay more. So here's the elevator pitch. Online shoppers hate it when they visit a site and can't find what they want. They won't convert, they'll jump to a competitor, and they'll never come back. That kind of behavior is bound to happen if your site is boxed in by a platform that limits your say in the shopper experience. SearchSpring gives you total control over your site so that your shoppers actually enjoy being there. Increase your cart size, conversion, and repeat customers with the search, merchandising, and personalization and insight tools that help you get the right product in front of the right shopper at the right time. That's how you deliver the ultimate shopper experience. See how retailers from the upside to the paper store deliver the ultimate shopper experience at searchspring.com. Capital letter S in the chat if you understand how they would be valuable to their audience of e-commerce brands. Good. Awesome. A lot of S's. Where did this take them? Well, again, they used this at the beginning of their sales calls. We built an entire sales deck around this exact pitch. And their sales team this was literally the results of their different sales team members. 105%, 195%, 200% of quota. This person on the right here, Deontay, he went from being on a PIP, which if you're not familiar, that's a performance improvement plan, meaning you're about to be fired unless you start hitting metrics. Because where he said in May, he was doing 50% of his quota, to improving that by a full 100% to 149% the following month. And they were hitting record months for MRR because this this method of communication changed how their audience perceived them, because finally they felt seen. If you go to SearchSpring's website, unless they've changed it recently, so much of their website copy is literally that elevator pitch. I'm going to skip through this one because we're out of time, but you can see it later. More results there. Yes. Awesome. Let's come back to Kim and Joyce, who I was talking about at the very beginning of this, right? Remember the situation that I brought up at the beginning where they were ready to go to market, potentially raise some capital, and they were confusing everyone. From that, we created the elevator pitch, and it actually became the script for an explainer video. So we're going to watch their elevator pitch through this video.
As I'm in the midst of applying for
Firstly, we'll get an ad from Grammarly.
Residency right now. Wish me luck. Grammarly has again been a lifesaver with my application.
Problem.
When you're a star high school student athlete, you compete tirelessly on the court and in the classroom to achieve your one dream of playing in college. Top schools recruit you and even offer you a scholarship. Then senior year hits and you find out that the class you took actually doesn't count. Your GPA is 0.25 off or your SAT score is 10 points too low. Even with the experts in your corner, school counselors, parents, and coaches, athletic eligibility rules can be confusing to navigate. And often by the time you find out you're ineligible, it's too late to catch up. Boom. Game over.
Approach.
HonestGame is the clear pathway for getting in.
Solution.
We automate the process so the student, the parent, the coach, the counselor, and the college all get real-time eligibility updates. With HonestGame, everyone knows what to do before it's too late. And
I'll kill it there just in the interest of time. Their video, for the purpose of the video, they went into some additional numbers around the market and things like that. But capital letter H, if you understand how HonestGame might be valuable to high school student athletes wanting to play in college, and the college is trying to recruit them. Good. We got some H's coming in. Good. Right. This is how you reframe the entire communication of your company. And this is how you don't, again, you're not sitting here just thinking about, do I say disruptive AI or AI disruption to an investor? You focus your efforts on how to make your customer feel seen, and you put that message in front of your investors. For HonestGame, when we were building this, there was an opportunity to enter a competition with a VC firm called Loud Capital in partnership with the Chicago Bulls. 221 companies applied. Of that, HonestGame got selected into the top 20. The top 20 got to pitch in the semifinals, and HonestGame made it to the top 5, where they then got to pitch on center court at the United Center in front of Bulls executives, former 4-time NBA world champion Horace Grant, Loud Capital's team, and a couple other important business leaders. they were going up against other companies who were already doing $1 million in ARR, and HonestGame was just about to onboard their first 5 or 6 unpaid pilot customers. They all pitched. The next night at the Bulls game during timeout, the winner was announced. And guess who got to stand tall holding the big check for a $50K investment? Kim and Joyce, the same 2 people who not too long before that were literally confusing people with their pitch, were now literally getting rewarded for it. This 50K, and what's funny is one time I was doing this workshop and one of the teams they beat was in the workshop, and they were like, hey, I was one of the other 4 that got beat out by them. So this then on-ramped them to a seed round. They did a little bit over 2 million, and the last I checked in with them, they're now doing 7-figure ARR themselves. So their story is really great, and big ups to them. Just a little something that they mentioned about the whole process. Ultimately, though, I just want to come back to something as we wrap up today. I said this earlier, right? It's not a throwaway item. It's deeper than a one-liner, and it should do all of these things. And I really want you to think about what you're saying today. Is it producing these kinds of results? And if not, why are you not fixing it? It can and it should do all of these things to influence not just how you're going to raise capital, but your entire go-to-market messaging and strategy. And that is why this formula is so powerful and why it can influence so many of your other efforts as well. And you don't have to do double the work, unnecessarily. This is my contact information. We work on this stuff literally every week. If you want our help in flipping your pitch into something that is going to produce those kinds of results, we have a whole process we take you through that we start here and we use it to build out the other elements that will support you in both your fundraise and your go-to-market. The QR code in the top right will take you directly to my calendar page where you can book a meeting to discuss this further. But please also, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. We have an online founder community in the bottom right called the Goat to Market Club, and that's the sign up link. It's free. I will also, in a follow-up email, send you the slides, the director's cut recording, and then again in about a week, just check our YouTube page for this exact recording. I know we're over time. I can hang out for a couple more minutes if anyone has any questions. So if you do, go ahead and ask those. And if you need to jump off, just again, the last thing I will say here is what's on the slide is all of this stuff, what's behind all of this material you saw today is also a deeper rooted philosophy that you can spend a lot of your time trying to be better than others, trying to be the best of the lot. But that is a fast path to just constantly being compared to the rest of the market and having to fight the presumptions people have about the other players in the market. Or you can instead choose to not be the best, but be the only. And if you become the only and you get people to recognize you as the only, you create the sandbox that other people get to play in, or you decide if they don't even get to play in it at all. All right, let's go to Andrea. You have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Awesome stuff. I am a non-US resident, even though I have a LLC startup. And as I am part of this Pitch Score Accelerator, my plan is to raise money, hopefully from US investors.
Okay.
But to be honest, I have no clue about where to kind of pitch my idea, my startup, to get these grants that you mentioned that your customer wants. So it would be very nice to have this knowledge extra, like when the pitch is ready, where do we go to get some free money? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Part of it is you can if I were you, I would set up a Google alert for your industry and accelerator, or your industry and competition and pitch competition. One thing that we do with our newsletter for Startup Hypeman is every other Friday, we publish a list. We publish an email called Upcoming Funding Opportunities. So in that email, we'll, depending on the week, it ends up being between like 5 and 12 or 5 and 14 different opportunities. And and so you have that as a resource. We'll add you to our email list coming out of today, so you'll be able to get that. So that's potentially one area, but if not that, set up a Google alert specifically for your industry, and then like grant or pitch competition or incubator or accelerator, et cetera.
Yeah, Raj, I was going to mention your go to market email list. That is fantastic. You guys are always listing pitch opportunities, pitch competitions, things like that on there. So I'd encourage everybody to sign up for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And we had another question come in from Hubert, and he was asking, when you're working with founders, are you doing one-on-one sessions or do you have group sessions? How does that work?
Yeah, so we do it as a personalized consulting project. So we work one-on-one with the founder or the founding team. And depending on the specifics of their startup, it can take it's going as fast as 4 weeks, but I would say typically is 6 to 8 weeks, potentially 8 to 10, depending on if you have like a marketplace startup. And there's a little bit more. So like one thing that often comes up with marketplace startups as an example is these founders are very confused because they have a buy side and a sell side. And they're like, I have competing narratives here. And so what we'll do is we'll create a KPASA for the buy side, for the sell side, and then an umbrella KPASA that captures the value of both sides of the market. And then that's the one that gets put in front of the investor most often. Sometimes we develop all three and we're like, you know what? The sell side one is just so attractive. Let's run with that because that's actually going to be the best thing for an investor. And we'll add an extra note that an investor would care about. The link I just put in the chat walks through our actual process, Hubert. Sweet. What else? We can do one more if there's another question.
Any other questions for Raj here?
Hi, this is Mamta. Sorry, not on video. I'm not well.
That's okay.
Yeah. So I have a quick question. I thought this was a great presentation and got me thinking about a lot of things. But what's your timeline? I mean, when we engage with you, what is your typical timeline to like really get that messaging, the solution? What is it 1 week, 2 weeks, 6 months?
Yeah, so through our entire process that we have, which here, I'll pull it up on screen share. This process that you'll see down here, which is the elevator pitch, we storyboard out your pitch deck, we design it, we create a document called a brand manifesto. We also give you an audio recording file of your pitch to push out to investors. That whole process, I'd say, is about 6 to 8 weeks if you're not a marketplace startup. If you are a marketplace startup, it's about 8 to 10 weeks. It can go faster. It just requires input on the side of the founder. So like the fastest I've seen it go is we just wrapped up with a company that started on like August 12th and was finished by like September 7th because they were just really on top of the deliverables we needed from them along the way. And then also, if your team handles like if you have your own internal graphic designers, that can also, at whatever pace if they design faster, then that would also reduce the timeline.
Okay. And what's a typical cost?
Yeah, so we tier the pricing based on the traction a company has. So if you go to this page here, there's literally just a drop down here and you can see a table of different idea of pricing based on the traction that you have. So this is the link up here, startuphypeman.com/fundraising.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you want to meet Expert Atlas, I'm happy to put you in touch with them. I saw in the chat you said that was the situation, the elevator pitch was literally like your situation too, and they might be able to help solve your problem.
Yeah, so actually, so just to I also run a ed tech company, and
Yeah.
I really loved what Atlas. So I really want to get in touch with them for lead generation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Do you sell into higher ed or like
so
pre-K?
that's where we are trying to figure out our market, higher ed, K-12 corporation, because as you correctly said, the TAM is huge, right? In the thing, but then there is not much VC funding for ed tech right now. But we feel we have a great product, and we are we are at a very place where we are trying to do the elevator pitch, all that good stuff that you described. So it really resonates with what you are doing and helping. So, I'd love to get in touch, and explore a little bit more and see if it makes sense for us.
For sure. Yeah, that QR code there will take you straight to my calendar page. In the follow-up email that I send, I'll also link to my calendar there.
Okay.
And then again, also just if you want to separately reach out to me, I can get you in touch with Expert Atlas. Their solution, if you're an ed tech startup, will specifically help if you're selling into higher ed, because that's where the problem resides. That issue of like the marketing not really working doesn't so much happen in like pre-K or K through 12. It's really a higher ed issue with getting that attention to that market.
Yes. So we have 3 markets. So we, higher ed, K-12 and corporation. And we are kind of right now looking at the market that is, people in K-12 going into college, the first year college. So I guess it's a hybrid.
Okay, got it. All right, good to know. Okay, Megan, you raised your hand. I'll give you one more here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So I created a deck a few months back, and I presented it to, investors and stuff. And actually an MBA, who is also an investor, he said he wanted, to deal with it, help me with it. But he said I needed a strong business plan because my deck didn't show none of the financials. But my goal was to build the tech that I needed to make my business, make it, do what it's going to do. But so I'm wondering now, I'm actually working with Microsoft. I'm nervous. Microsoft Startups Hub.
Cool.
And so I'm building it myself, kind of. Well, they're helping, but so if I made a pitch that explained what my tech's going to do, as far as my whole, not really explain it, but pitch it right. Do you think that would help with my business plan?
I don't know if I'm following the question.
Okay. Well, that was part of my business plan. Well, okay. I've made money with my business.
Okay.
But it's I didn't charge my people up front, at all, because I was trying to build my ratings. But they all donated, and then they're all tipped, and they all give rewards. Like I made like $2,500 off the last one. But should I include?
So I think I know what you're saying here. So
okay.
A fully fleshed out business plan, of course, can help. There are plenty of startups who never actually do that. And the pitch deck, more or less, is the business plan. So it's kind of a matter of what you feel will help you the most. If it helps you to write out a 20-page, Word document, then sure. If it's not going to help you, and again, even if you don't think it would help you, maybe it will help you because it is a helpful exercise. But if you think you can get by without it, then you don't really need to do all of that stuff. The idea is you just want to have like your financial model created, and that's a good reason for Forecastr software to come into play, for example. So you want to be able to stand up to a line of questioning beyond the pitch. And just so you know, like in our process, like when we're doing the phase that's the pitch deck, we send you this very detailed questionnaire to complete that really forces you to answer some of these like identity challenging questions about your company. That help answer those things that would probably be in a business plan anyways.
Oh, neat.
And then just while I'm on the topic, one of the very unique things that we do is after we build your storyboard, I actually pitch you on your own company. So I don't,
That's
that's
not-
again, that's a very like unique aspect is it's not just like we create and we're like, here, use it. It's like, and I call it a live freestyle pitch because I've done this enough that I can literally on the spot, once I've built something, I can literally freestyle what you should be saying. And then we record that, so then you can reference that for the future when you need to use your pitch.
Okay. So even though I've had the money that I've made, it's really not like, you know, how would I show that?
What do you mean? If you,
Because like I was saying, they donated and they tipped me versus me actually making money off product. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, okay, I think I see what you're saying. So here's how, and you know, everyone who can still hang around, this is a really good lesson I want you to hear. This is a very unique technique that we leverage in a case like that. And it doesn't just have to be like a situation like you're saying where it's like donations or tips. It can be like for many of you who have early revenue that maybe is associated with your product, but isn't technically revenue that was put like against your product. Like maybe you did this as a consulting thing first and you got revenue there, and now you're building the product to make the consulting into technology. This is what you would want to call R&D. That's your R&D phase. And it was a paid R&D phase, research and development. And the idea behind presenting that number is like, in that way, is you're essentially saying, look, most companies have to pay others to get their R&D done. We got paid to do ours because there was that much interest in the overall like idea of what's behind this. And that revenue helped us inform the product development. So even though you didn't get revenue for the product itself, it was R&D revenue, research and development revenue. It was part of a paid R&D cycle. Did you catch that, Megan? I don't know if you went back on mute.
yes, I did. I'm sorry, my mailman pulled up and my dogs were going crazy, but I was listening. Yes, I was. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
okay, thank you so
that's
much.
how I would think about that.
Yeah,
all right,
that's
everybody.
gonna
I thank you so much. We're almost like pushing 90 minutes now. So I thank you all for giving me this much time if you're still here. I'll follow up with an email later today with the bonus resources. And then our YouTube channel is youtube.com/startuphypeman. In about a week, you will see this exact recording go up on our YouTube page.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Take care. And thank you to Forecastr and Coconut as well.
Thank you.